Welcome to the reality check. I am your caravaner, your border jumper, not a refugee. I am your host, back from a week of being off. I should say offness. I don't know if that's an appropriate word, offness, but I was outness, I would say. Yeah, last week I was really sick, so wouldn't have been a good show for anybody. I mean, I'm already not that pretty as it is, and then being sick, it would make it way worse. So, let's get to the news today. We start off by saying caravans, right? So the caravan making its way to the border. They've released their list of demands, and they expect that Donald Trump meets their demands. So you have about 1,500 people just coming through Mexico towards the U.S. They say some aren't coming to the U.S., some are. They're from Pueblos and Frentes, some political outreach group organized this caravan, I'm sure funded some way by George Soros. They demand of Mexico and the United States that they respect their rights as refugees and their right to dignified work, to be able to support their families. So, I mean, in that sense, it's great. Nobody was stopping you. Why are you telling us about this? Go on with your work. The second demand is that, and here's where it gets fun, they want open borders because, much like citizens, as the people of the countries where we are and travel. So the borders should be open because they're like citizens. So I'm not really, I don't even know what to say to that. But, if you look at their website, to just basically have a picture of Refugee Caravan 2018, donate money to it. Probably some scam to skim some money off the top, and with Soros funded on the back end, they want to provide a safe shelter and safety to migrants and refugees in transit. How about you not send them in transit, because you know how bad, and it's not good for them. I mean, not good for their health, not good for the women. There's no safety. Yeah. So basically a big PR stunt, trying to force something to happen. And like Trump was saying today, just, put the military at the border. If they don't want to build a wall, put the military at the border. Get everyone ready to go. Nobody's going past this point. And Mexico needs to take care of it. I mean, it's just that simple. Mexico letting them come through, it's pretty ridiculous. But, what else do we expect? Mexico is tough, if submarine, crosses the border and he has, his rifle, he could be in jail for a decade or killed. But, we'll let just these people do whatever they want, right? So, needless to say, but, they're making this out to be these poor little kids and women, always with the kids and the women. Just kind of like with the Palestinians when, they're lobbing bombs over to Israel, and then when it's time for Israel to retaliate, all of a sudden the kids and women get in the way. And that's what you have here. Look at the pictures. Look at the caravans. Look at who it is. You'll see, there's one woman, one kid, and then there's like 40 guys. 40 guys that look like they could be part of the military. 40 guys that look like they could be part of the MS-13. 40 guys who look like they can be, not refugees. Let's just put it like that. I mean, you have what it is, border jumpers, not refugees. I don't know. There's not much more to expand on that. I mean, it is what it is. It's funny that you have people that are looking for help, and that's cool. Okay. But now you already have demands. You haven't even got here, and you have demands. So, I mean, interesting enough, that's like, I'm going to invite myself to your party, and on top of that, here's what I need for you to have at your party for me to show up there. Yeah, just unbelievable. But, Trump did the right thing. Tell Mexico they need to do their part or they will be punished, and that's it. It's pretty much the way it is. I mean, and people say, help out. That's great. We can help people out all we want. Well, one, let's help the people out we have here. And, that's just a simple, basic thing. plus the fact that we just can't handle everybody. Sorry, but you want to talk about back in the day when the country was created? Yeah, we didn't have people. We didn't have as many expenses. It was great to help out whoever could get here, because most people couldn't get here if they tried. You know, you take a boat here, 90% of the people die in the boat. So people weren't risking their lives in general. And the ones that did and made it, you know, we built our country. But now we're at a point of where we have so many people. We're so in debt ourselves. I mean, we need to help ourselves before we're helping other people. So like I said, enough of the caravan. We can move on from that. Just silliness, listing their demands. So now we got the story in California. You had the, regardless, lesbian moms, not lesbians. You know, basically on the Pacific Coast Highway, they're saying that they purposely crashed the car, they think, and killed their 3 children. And obviously, one of the kids had some notoriety. That's the only reason why you even know about any of these people. The one kid, Devontae Hart, you know, he drew national attention when they took a picture of, you know, he's a black kid who took a picture in tears hugging a white police officer during a 2014 protest. And he was known to go around and give people hugs and, you know, kind of just put race aside, like most people do in normal life. But as a kid, it was nice to see. And that's how he had some notoriety. Now, it was revealed that the couple had pulled their kids out of school after Sarah Hart, who was one of the moms, it was Jennifer and Sarah Hart, admitted to child abuse in 2011. And, you know, she kind of did the same stunt before, pulling her kids out. And they just moved around kind of, you know, their neighbors had said these kids have come over and they were looking for food. They were starving. They were mistreated. There were multiple complaints. I don't know if the hammer was about to drop on her and that's why she did this. Either way, it just shows what a disgusting, I mean, just a discourage, not even a human being below that. You know what? You don't like your life. You're getting in trouble. Whatever. You want to kill yourself. That's your business. But man, to take kids' lives, you've already ruined their life as much, but to take any chance they have of having a good life away is just, you know, very, very sad. You know, and has a pretty just rough story in general. Now we have another big story this week that took place was, of course, the Winnie Mandela. So she died, and basically, you know, you had it to where everyone's making her out to be a hero. You know, she was pretty savage. I mean, even her own husband wanted no part of kind of some of the things she did. I mean, but here you had the media lauding her, saying how great she is, a leader, awesome, did this and that. You know, I mean, just obviously, I don't want to say fake news is the word, but, you know, they're just, I mean, yeah, stalwart, apartheid campaigner, activist, and politician. You know, they go on and just, you know, forget about who this woman was. I remember in '86 when her husband was in jail, she would endorse, you know, violent methods to achieve the freedom for the blacks in South Africa. She said, we have no guns, we only have stones and box of matches and petrol. So she wanted to liberate the country with matches, you know, and she was also a proponent of necklacing, which is a method of torture and murder used on police informants, where a tire is filled with gasoline and forced around a person's arms and set on fire. You know, she tortured whenever she wanted. She tortured people. She participated in beatings, you know, and later on she had apologized to a few of the families, but, you know, she was at one point put in jail for theft, bank fraud. She profited from loans to poor people, like people that needed her help to get a loan. She would vouch for them, and she profited from that. And this is the person we're praising. And you see the country's still a mess. Now they're killing white farmers, stealing their land just because they're white. So, unfortunately, husband hero, her, no, not as much. But of course, we had the media talk about how great she was and all the great things she's accomplished, but I really don't know what they were, and I do know the crimes that she committed. But, of course, they want to overlook them as always. So what do we have today? We have this weekend, UFC 223. Really, it's going to be a good card, exciting. You have, originally, we were supposed to have a main event, which has been scheduled multiple times. This is, I think, the third time, maybe, that it's been canceled. The main event of, Habib and Tony Ferguson. And this is the third time I think that's been canceled. But this time, it's, rare that you get this good of a bonus that somebody can fill in and you don't really lose much. Max Holloway is stepping in and he'll fight Habib, but we'll get to that one later. We'll start now with our prelim card. The first bout up, we have Evan Dunham versus Oliver Aubin Mercier. Now, Dunham's 18-6-1, been around for a long time, always a good opponent. Oliver, I guess you say it, he's from Canada, 11-2, 8 years younger than Dunham. They're close in height, and their reach is pretty much. They're both actually lefties, which is pretty interesting. But Mercier, his striking defense should definitely neutralize the capabilities that Dunham has, and takedown offense and defense will allow Mercier to control the fight. He's a good submission artist, and it obviously makes him dangerous on the ground. And he's won, he's had more success recently. Dunham's kind of a win-one, lose-one guy, but Mercier has been winning his last few, and I see this one as a Mercier second-round submission. And that's the first fight of the prelim. Second fight, I don't even want to say the guy's last name, but Chris, it's Gruzemacher versus Joe Lazan. So Joe Lazan, kind of like Evan Dunham, been around for a long time. Joe Lazan, a huge veteran, 27-15. Chris, he is 13-3. Lazan's a little bit taller. He's definitely got about a 3-inch reach advantage, and both righties as far as fighting. Submission wise, Lazan is pretty much a king at that out of the two. So Lazan also has a good striking offense. It's going to cause some problems here, and then he can use his takedown to keep Chris guessing, and then maybe put him on the mat. And Lazan does have the good ground and pound. And he definitely has beaten some more, well-known opponents. I see a second-round submission for Joe Lazan. Next fight, Ray Borg, who a few fights ago, or I guess might have been his last fight, he actually fought Mighty Mouse for the title. Of course, he lost pretty handily. But Ray Borg is a guy 11-3. He's fighting Brandon Moreno, who's 14-4. Borg's a few inches shorter, and Moreno has a huge reach advantage. But to Borg, it's pretty irrelevant. I think Borg's, obviously the shorter guy most of the time, and face guys with longer reach. And for Borg, when this guy comes in and he's on weight, when Borg comes in on weight, he is an extremely dangerous fighter. He's pretty much he's handled almost everybody but Mighty Mouse when he comes in on weight. When the guy struggles with his weight, and he's overweight or he's just barely making it, and you can see by the weigh-ins, he looks like a different fighter. So we'll just have to assume, because it's nothing I can control or know, is that this guy, last time he handled his weight very well. Hopefully this time he does it again, make it a more exciting fight. He knows that he needs to be careful. Moreno is a crisp striker, but he should be able to take the fight to the ground board when he wants, and he's dangerous through submissions. I mean, the majority of his wins are by submission, then decision. He's just, like I said, 11-3, solid record. And I see Borg winning this fight by a second round submission. And in the last prelim, you have Carolina I don't know how to say that name, Kolkowitz against Felice Herring. Carolina's 11-2. Herring is 14-6. Within an inch of each other's height. They both have about the same range. They're both, righty stance. I think Carolina will overwhelm Herring with her pace. She's just much faster. I mean, Felice may be stronger, but Carolina is just much faster, and she, has a good takedown defense. So I think obviously that's what Herring will go for. Herring's most of a decision fighter. Actually, they're both, for the most part, decision fighters. They win by decision. So nobody has super knockout power. I mean, for me, I just see Carolina inking out a decision here. It should be a somewhat entertaining fight. They both have good gas tanks, I think. And so the action will happen. I just don't see, knockdowns, knockouts that much. But like I said, a decision and a split decision for Carolina. So that wraps up, the prelims. So on to the main card, right? So main card, first fight we have is Ally Quinta against Paul Felder. Paul Felder, a lot of people who watch fights know him pretty well because obviously he's been commentating recently. And, Felder's 15-3, Quinta's 13-3. Felder's about 2 inches taller, and the reach is about the same. Both stand righty. They're both, the majority of their wins are KO, both guys. Good punching power. But Felder has good punching power, above average, I would say, but Quinta is just one of those guys that hits. I mean, he's from like the Matt Serra camp, Chris Weidman, all those guys, and this guy hits hard. He has the power to knock anybody out, and he has a decent takedown defense and offense for, like I said, the camp he comes from. So he could pretty much neutralize a lot of other things Felder can do. I mean, I see Quinta just a TKO second round. He's just unbelievable punching power, and the guy is in good shape. I mean, I don't know. Felder's a decent fighter, but for me, Quinta's just a little bit above. So next fight, I think, is pretty interesting fight. You got Michael Chiesa against Anthony Pettis. Now, everyone knows Anthony Pettis at one time was the champ. Recently, Pettis is kind of been a win one, lose one guy. I mean, sometimes he hasn't looked as impressive as it used to look in quite some time. He's just kind of been okay, been decent. I mean, the one thing about Pettis, though, his last 7 fights, he's been in every one of them. He's went 3 to 5 rounds in every one of his fights, mostly decisions. So if you're looking at that, I mean, he's always been competitive. And, I mean, in the stand-up fight, obviously, Pettis has the edge over Michael. Pettis is 20-7. Michael's 14-3. Michael is really tall and lanky, so he's got about 3 inches in height and 3 inches in reach. Michael's a lefty, and Pettis is righty. But like I said, in the stand-up fight, Pettis has the edge just because, I mean, everybody knows when Pettis is on, his strikes from legs to elbows to fists, I mean, just quick and many. But Pettis' weakness is the wrestling, and Michael Chiesa has good wrestling. And, he has tools to get Pettis down. But Pettis, definitely is a dangerous submission artist, and he's dangerous from the ground. So in that sense, although Chiesa has the edge in that, Pettis is still a good fighter and can be dangerous from any point. Pettis is pretty split fighter as far as his finishes. Is half the time it's like a TKO, then maybe submissions and decisions. And for Chiesa, it's submissions. And in that sense, I don't see it going that well for him. I think it's going to go the distance. I think it's going to be a unanimous decision for Pettis. I think Pettis' strikes will be too much. They're going to do some damage and kind of wear him down. And he's not, even if he gets on top of Pettis, Pettis has enough tools and skills to just, stay in there to do some damage and not take as much damage from the bottom as other people would. But it should be an interesting fight. Next up on the card, we have Calvin Kattar against Renato Moicano. Now, Moicano is 11-1, and Calvin Kattar is 18-2. Both guys are pretty much even, same height, same reach, both fight in the righty position. Kattar has KO power, and Moicano is really pretty much a submission decision guy. But for Moicano, his only loss has been to Brian Ortega, and we know how good Brian Ortega is, so that's no knock against Moicano. I think he can exploit the holes in Kattar's defense, and he has better takedowns, and he can defend, I think, Calvin's takedowns because they're not super strong. Moicano has a good submission game, and so I think that's just pretty much going to just put into his favor. I mean, Kattar is a decent fighter. I think Moicano is a step above that, and so that's why I see a split decision. Split decision win for Moicano. Not surprising if Kattar wins. I don't see it. So now in the co-main event, this one is the ladies' straw weight title. Now we have Rose Namajunas, who is the champ now, and took that belt from Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Now they've fought. This will be the third time they fight. It's 1-1. But Rose Namajunas, destroyed Joanna Jędrzejczyk last time. I think Joanna looked so cocky before the fight, and in all the media and everything, she was just really cocky and just, I don't know, it was kind of not only a turn off, but just she wasn't taking the fight seriously. I'm the champ, I'm going to show up and win. And she got her block knocked off. She said a lot of the problem was her weight cut. Now, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but that kind of scares me, that talk. It's just take full responsibility and say you got beaten. So Rose knows that. I mean, she's going to come into this one with a lot of confidence. She looked phenomenal last time. She knows she's got to be careful, obviously, but she can control the fight physically as far as stopping Joanna's takedowns and, keeping it standing if she needs to. But does she want to do that? I think Rose might want to take her down and punish Joanna on the ground. But I just see that if Joanna's on, she's just not going to lose. When this girl is on and her head's right, she's just dominant. I mean, her striking is too much. She doesn't stop. She doesn't get tired. She's pretty elusive, except for her last fight when Rose caught her. So you have the confidence of Rose going into this fight, and you have Joanna, who I'm thinking that her head's going to be right for this one. Rose's career, she's 8-3. She's gotten better through time. So don't let the record fool you recently. She's been better, but Joanna's 14-1, and that was her only loss. They're with an inch in height, half an inch in reach. They both fight out of the righty position, and I just see that Joanna's winning this fight. I think she's going to be more back to herself, and it's going to be a unanimous decision. I think it'll be an exciting fight. I think both girls will have their moments in it, but I think Joanna can win 3 to 4 rounds. And don't let it fool you. It's going to be a huge difference in the fight at the end of the day. I mean, just the rounds will be pretty close for the most part. But I just see this one going different than the last one, and I see Joanna regaining that title and becoming champ once again. So now we have the main event. The main event, not the one we've all been waiting for. Obviously, like I said, Tony Ferguson was supposed to fight Max Holloway for the lightweight strap, and now Ferguson got hurt, but a blessing to get Max Holloway to step up a weight class. You know, already the champ and move up. He's going to move up one weight class to fight Khabib. Now, Khabib Nurmagomedov, 25-0. Holloway's 19-3. Holloway's actually taller, but obviously Khabib will be way bigger. The dude's a big dude for that weight class. I mean, short, yes, but he is big, physically built, strong. He actually does have an inch of reach over Max Holloway. Max Holloway will be more of the lanky guy. So does Khabib? He's not going to engage in that stand-up war against Holloway. I don't think he will. He shouldn't. Although last fight you saw him just stand up there and take punches. Not a good idea. And I think if he ever does get in trouble, you will see Khabib, not only use his takedowns and just keep on pressuring. I mean, I've never seen a guy the way Khabib is. He just unbelievable how he can just keep on pushing through you and pushing through you and pushing through you and just take you down. You get up, he'll take you down again. You get up again, he'll take you down again. He doesn't give up. He doesn't quit. And he's not like some of these guys where their arms are around you and they're pulling and pulling. And maybe they'll get a takedown and they'll just sit and lay on you from it. This guy is grabbing your ankle, your leg, something, letting you go, grabbing you again on the way out. He doesn't give up. He's strong. He wears you out against that fence. I mean, Khabib has, a third of his wins are KOs, a third of his wins are submissions, a third are decisions. Any which way he can get you. Holloway, Holloway's been brilliant lately. I don't know what else can you say about him. His last loss was to Conor McGregor, but that was almost 5 years ago. He's won 12 in a row since then. I mean, at that time he was a young kid. He was 21 at the time, Holloway, and I mean now he's 26. Different fighter, more developed physically, and just much better. If he fought McGregor again, Holloway, I think he'd have a chance to beat him. But that being said, I don't think Khabib is another level. And what I see happening here is Khabib pressing and pressing and attacking. And Holloway will hit him, and Holloway will have a few moments, but Khabib is just going to walk through it all, take Holloway down and pound and pound and pound and pound. And unlike some other fights where you see that Khabib does have decisions and you're like, well, he should be finishing people. He just abuses people all fight. Abuses them. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. And this being a 5-round fight, I think he's going to do the same thing. And at the end of the 4th round, he's going to have Holloway so tired and so disoriented, that he's just going to submit him. So 4th round submission by Khabib. And he'll be the champ. And then if Conor McGregor is tough enough, he'll come and fight him. But I don't see that as being the case. I'm sure McGregor will have some kind of excuse or something, and he won't do it. I don't think he wants any part of Khabib. I mean, trust me, this guy is he's just another. You're not getting in his head. That's McGregor's brilliance of getting in people's head and make them fight differently than they normally do. And that's not going to happen with Khabib. He's just going to take you down. He doesn't care what you call him or what you're saying, what you think you're going to do. He'll just take you down. And just amazing. It's just amazing the way he fights. Just take you down. I've never seen a guy have such a will on people in the way of what he's going to do. You know, you see guys knock people out. Yes, they have awesome power, and you hit somebody. If you catch them, they're going to go down. But like this, just the will of taking you down. We've seen great wrestlers of the past, from like Dan Severn and Frank Shamrock, and even there are others I can't even think of right now. But Matt Hughes, just tremendous wrestlers. But and nothing. I mean, Habib is just on another level. It is just pretty amazing. So that's UFC preview, UFC 223 this weekend. That ought to be a good card, and hopefully my predictions do well, but we'll save them, and we'll definitely review them next week. Hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much. So this past week, like I said, I was sick, and I actually did something for myself. Actually quit soda. Now, I won't say I won't ever have soda again, but I'm drinking lots of flavored water. And, I've done good with it. It's the longest time I think I've went without soda for a long time. And I don't drink regular soda. It's really diet soda for the most part. Started that in high school just because it's the only thing you can have, right? When you wrestle, can't eat anything. You got to fill yourself up on diet soda and pretend you're getting some flavor. That's just become a habit for years. Nothing to do with me getting sick, but I just figured, you know what? I'm going to drink water, be healthy, and hopefully that works out for the best and keep my health very good. So enough of that one. Let's see here. We have, I've seen Dan Rather. Funny enough, this clown. I mean, Dan Rather ripping people about their script media, saying you shouldn't be reading stuff that's handed down by the conglomerates above you, corporate overlords, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I find it funny. Dan Rather. I mean, here's the same guy who, it's just ironic. Here's the same guy, Dan Rather, who lied, got caught, and instead of pretty much being fired and banned from being a journalist, right? What happened? What happened to this guy? Oh, they threw some fake award party and gave him an award like he was a brain surgeon or did something good. Yay, 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 Dan Rather, Dan Rather. Piece of, you know what? Excrement. So now, big movie coming out, Chappaquiddick. It explores Ted Kennedy's darkest hours. Now, Ted Kennedy's darkest hours? Or is it Mary Jo's darkest hours? Because she's the one who drowned in the darkness. I mean, I don't know why they had to get me started on this. Because I've talked about this for years. Ted Kennedy should have been in jail. He's a disgrace. Not only the damage he did by killing somebody, which is beyond comprehensible, but just the damage he did to this country on top of that. And I don't want to say that's worse because this was somebody's life, but it's, So I'm just reading this article on this. I don't know why I clicked on it, and not just unbelievable. So it starts out, director John Curran, who was first hesitant to sign on for Chappaquiddick, a film that explores a tragic chapter in Senator Ted Kennedy's life. First sentence already is annoying me. A tragic chapter. It's not a tragic chapter. He was drunk, drove a car into a pond, and he left a campaign worker / friend to die. But we'll go on later about that for everybody who doesn't know the story. And we won't get into the full story tonight, but because I've done it before, and I'll probably have to do it again when this, maybe when I see the movie or whatnot. I don't know. But so it talks about this director, John Curran. As a person who admired Kennedy, who died in 2009, Curran had no interest in bringing a salacious hit piece to the big screen. Luckily, the script that arrived on his desk was nuanced and compelling. So he didn't, salacious hit piece. He murdered somebody. He had no respect for life. He was total scum, Ted Kennedy. It's not a salacious hit piece. If I did the film, it wouldn't be a salacious hit piece. It'd be factual information. You don't need to make it salacious. It already was disgusting. But luckily, the script that arrived on Curran's desk was nuanced and compelling, because it's all about being compelling. We don't want any factual information. I know films are based on fact, but, so the film's about, of course, the 1969 accident in which a car driven by Kennedy lost control while crossing a bridge and crashed into a pond. Kennedy escaped the wreckage, but his campaign worker, Mary Jo Kopechne, died. Now, poor Kennedy, you see, he was criticized for waiting 10 hours to alert the police. Oh my gosh, people criticized him about that? Wow, those people are really nasty. How dare them say anything about poor Ted? He only waited 10 hours to tell the police. It's not like you crashed your car and were mad and left and said, I'll come back in the morning. No, one, the guy was drunk, so he took off. Okay, imagine like players that do this now. What do we think about that? But not only that, he crashed it into a pond, and this Mary Jo Kopechne was alive. And it was basically 10 hours later. At any time, we could have called authority, somebody, and had a shot, a hope to save her. Maybe it wasn't much of a chance, but it's something. So like most people who supported Ted throughout his career, he was complicit in a way by conveniently ignoring this chapter in his life. You got that right, Curran. You were complicit. So the guy was a murderer, and you just ignored that. But when in fact, it was this tragedy that determined the arc of his career. Meaning it went down, but not enough. Because the guy still was in the government. Still got to live a good life, Senator Ted Kennedy, where Mary Jo got to die in a watery grave. But the fact was the tragedy determined the arc of his career. Oh my gosh. You mean he couldn't become president after he killed somebody? He only got to be a senator. Ted was a senator on the rise at the time of the accident. But poor Ted. I mean, it's fair to say by this point he assumed Mary Jo was dead, and his delay in reporting the incident was based on self-preservation. Now, so it says 10 hours passed before he finally reported the accident, and the film tries to get the heart of why. Why? Saving his own, you know what? And the only reason why the guy reported it is he had no choice. I'm sure his handlers told him, dude, you gotta say this now, because those police find that car, everyone's like, where's Mary Jo? And you were the last person to see her, right? You could become like the Skakels, your cousins, remember them? Yeah. How they weren't honest with the golf club, and that girl died too, but whatever. Unbelievable. So they decided after 50 years it was time for the story to be re-examined. An honest portrait of the last and youngest brother of our greatest political dynasty in the lowest moment, and also a cautionary tale of excess and abuse of power. Blah, blah, blah. So the film is supposedly based on the inquest testimony. And so it opens in theaters in 3 days. Just what else can I say about that? My feelings on it, I think everybody knows are clear. Whatever your excuses are, you thought this, you thought that, guy could have called somebody. And even if he didn't save her life, he could have gave her a chance. If that's your daughter, your wife, your kid, your friend, your cousin, anybody you know, you'd want them to have at least a chance. You know what? Mistakes happen. We'll say it was sober. No. But let's just say it was, or let's just say whatever. They were drinking, they were out, and that's what happened. You'd want at least a chance for your relative, friend, daughter, cousin, aunt, uncle, whoever it may be, to have a chance to survive. But nope, he was the judge, jury, and executioner. And he killed Mary Jo, and there's no other way to look at it. You can just, whatever excuse you want to make, yeah, you know. So that was a pretty bad moment. A lot of these other stories are probably not just as bad, but bad. So I'll stop here to tell you a little joke, right? How about this one? Why did the chicken cross? No, I'm not going to. Come on. I got to think of something new. So what's the difference between Putin, like Vladimir Putin, the media loves him, and then somebody else they love, Hillary Clinton? What's the difference between them? The difference is Putin can at least win a rigged election. Hillary Clinton still cannot. Sorry, you lost again, no matter what excuse you make. Now, here's another story that was pretty rough this week reading. Judge Kenneth Walker, this guy is babbling all the time. Wants to confiscate guns, throw them in the ocean, blah, blah, blah. But that's not good enough. So this week he wants to show you what a cool dude he is. Or I shouldn't say this week because, a few weeks ago now. But during the sentencing for a domestic abuse case, Walker reprimanded the victim. Yes, not the attacker, the victim who was giving her impact statement for an ex of hers. And he reprimanded her 3 times. And then he left the courtroom without even listening to what she had to say. So supposedly he's supposed to face some complaints. How about this guy be fired? He says, after listening to the tapes, I think I could have been more courteous. This girl was basically talking about how she was, her ex-boyfriend had already pleaded guilty once to assaulting her. He had a second assault charge and violating the probation regarding the first one. And she was just basically saying, and you know how hard it is. I mean, here's a victim. She's making her statement saying why, basically what happened. So she was talking about a time that her ex allegedly sexually assaulted her. And the judge interrupted and said he didn't want to hear the details. And he just said, I don't want to hear this. Continue with your message. So, here's a guy who didn't face any sexual assault charges. But she's allowed to say this. It's her victim impact statement. Okay, so, basically, she just said, I should be able to say this, And he just basically cut her off, kept on cutting her off, and he walked out of the courtroom. So here's somebody, putting out their heart there, talking about how they were attacked, and the judge couldn't care less. Not only couldn't care less, because he could have just shut up, went out of his way to be rude to the victim. So, hopefully he gets fired. What else is in the news the past week? Now we have 44 Dems, including Debbie Wasserwoman Schultz, exempted Pakistani IT aides from background checks. Nothing to see here, right? The Joanna dude selling everything, selling stolen government equipment. Nothing in the news about it. So 44 Dems, including their leader, of the DNC at the time exempted these IT aides from any background checks. So you say, what business of us? Well, I mean, yes, it is Democratic Party stuff, but they're the people that say they got hacked, which they've still shown no proof of. And they also have information in there that's not information we're privy to as American citizens. You know, some of it's classified. I know. You'll decide when it's classified, if it's classified or not, Hillary, but it is classified information. Some of that stuff they're talking about or have in there, or could have said. And now you have people that never even had a background check exposed to all that. Again, they don't care about their data. I mean, just a poorly run organization, the DNC. DNC, poorly run. You know, here it is. They're giving the data to anybody. These guys selling it, probably selling on the black market, selling all their stuff. And they're saying they got hacked by Russia and Trump and that, blah, blah. And you didn't even do the basic background check for your own employees. Good news for New York City. London passes New York City in murder for the first time ever. Now, interesting, that hasn't been all over the news. You would think Bill de Blasio would love to share that information with the East Coasters and say how safe New York is because even London's got more murders now. Well, nothing to be proud about. Not saying that New York's decreased any. It's just saying that, the murder rate's higher. But London still remains a safer city overall. Amidst knifings in London, the murder rate passed New York City's for the first time since consistent records have been kept. 15 people died in London in February. That's from knifings alone. And March saw 22 fatal stabbings and shootings, compared to 21 in New York. So, I think they have strict gun laws there. You know, and they have such a great mayor in London leading the way, the love master. And I know de Blasio is so awesome himself, but you see, gun control, huh? That's funny. That's why the story is not on the front page of your newspaper, because I guess gun control doesn't work that much. You know, because the people can't defend themselves from the knifings because they don't have guns. But, here's another one we didn't hear on the news. Now, this one's pretty good. We had Nancy Salzman facing a federal charge of child sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit forced labor. Interesting, right? Now, who is this girl? Well, she is Clinton Global Initiative member. Busted in New York for child sex ring. Very interesting. Not on the news at all. So they raided her home, signaling a wider criminal investigation for alleged sex trafficking, and she was arrested. Interesting, very interesting. Like I said, not on the news. I wonder why. I mean, you would think big sex trafficking ring. And they don't have to say Trump did anything. They could say de Blasio again. I think de Blasio is getting ripped off this week. De Blasio is getting ripped off this week. They could say they stopped the sex ring, and they could say they have a lower murder rate than London. And none of it's in the news. Oh, well. So last week, Trump terminated the $200 million Syrian aid package, and that's a good thing. We shouldn't be sending money to anybody. We need the money here at first. So here's a good one. Atlanta, Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, Seattle, Philadelphia, Cincinnati. Huge towns. And failing schools in most of them, high crime, and a lot of poverty. Now, since I was born. I was born in 73. Now, since then, none of these towns have had one Republican mayor. You know, and I mean, towns like think about Detroit. Detroit in like the late 50s and 60s was, I mean, a glamour town. That was an awesome place. But, you know, all downhill now. Thanks a lot for the poor leadership. Let's see, what do we have? Let's look at poor California's not getting talked about, right? So we had Governor Moonbeam Brown pardoning 5 criminal illegal aliens whose crimes included, and I know they served their time, kidnapping and robbery, beating your wife, threatening with intent to terror, dealing drugs, you know. And people say, is this what California wants? And sadly, we would have to say it is the majority of what California wants. Or maybe it's the people that are voting there, which might not all be Californians, but they voted that fool Brown in multiple times, just like they did his dad as well, who is responsible for the mental health crisis we have today. Look it up. Look up Jerry Brown's dad. I mean, Jerry Brown is a pig himself enough for what he's done to California and how many people have died under his watch. Yes, absolutely. But his dad is just as bad a criminal because his dad was the one who said, oh, these people in mental hospitals need more rights and they need to be able to live their lives. And so they took them out of the mental homes, the mental hospitals, and now they don't get their medication at the proper times, and half of them live on the streets and suffer even more. Well, they should be able to take care. No, they can't take care of themselves. That's why they were there in the first place. It's like putting an infant out on the street. Well, he should be able to take care of himself. No, that's why there are parents. That's why that's the way households go. Yeah, you know. Reports have come out. No big deal, right? That Hillary Clinton approved sending sarin gas to Syria rebels. You know. Yeah, whatever. We don't, yeah. Then there's the big fuss, the citizenship question, right? On the 2020 census. Now, it's offending people. I mean, firstly, you have to, like, I don't know, punch your windshield, bang your head, start cracking up. I don't know. What's the proper response? It is a census for the citizens of the United States of America. Of course, we should be asking if people are citizens. These questions will scare people off. No, actually they won't, because they don't care if they're here illegally. They'll just put they're a citizen. So it's not going to scare them off. And they don't care. Most of the time, people that are here illegally don't fill out these questionnaires. Half the people that are citizens don't want to fill out this junk because you feel like you're being invaded. How about just a place where we can all go in town and swipe our IDs, show we're alive, show we're legal, and then we can have the real numbers. But we don't have the IDs. We don't even have an ID system when we vote. So all this is for naught, because whatever numbers you have here, then more people vote, and they don't do anything about it, right? Remember Ohio, when Obama got elected, and there were 102, 103% of towns that voted for him, and nobody seemed to care. Yeah. And then, of course, we already knew this, but we found out some more information just to confirm between the stroke and page text that Obama's administration knew and were in on the setup of Trump and the Russian witch hunt. Nah, you know. And then we have, what else do we have? I don't know. But we've had to hear, like, people speaking, and they're going to take your guns away, and they're threatening, and from a certain school. And you got one of them who was actually, people are saying around the school, one of the people actually bullied the shooter. And then we have another one who, likes to just tell you what's up and threaten people, and you're doing this, and you're taking people's advertisers, blah, blah, blah. Because that's what they have to do, take advertisers, because they can't win the debate. But here's the lesson. Although you do have the right to say something, it doesn't protect you from people all around laughing at you, insulting you, ridiculing you, mocking you, and just plain outright disagreeing with you. And you have to remember that when you're talking, that you just don't have the freedom to have your voice heard and nobody else has theirs. Especially when you're trying to agitate people, they will strike back. It's just a lesson for high schoolers and people of all ages. Now, let's see. Where was the March of Lives when Obama was in office, when we had multiple school shootings? Not a word. Not a word. Being that the Department of Justice charged a former FBI agent with leaking information to the media recently, former FBI agent Terry James Albury charged, and we had the guy in the submarine that was charged for taking pictures a few years back. When will we charge James Comey? Right? When are we going to charge him? I mean, he's leaked information, admittedly. Not only, you could skip the lies and the rest, just that alone, he's admitted he leaked information. When will he go to jail and serve his time? Just like, I guess the storm's over, there's not been much Stormy Daniels. Not to bring that up in the news, but to really bring it up, I'll say this. There was somebody that said they had a sexual encounter with Obama. And where was the 60-minute special? Did they ask if he used protection? Did they ask for Obama's denial? Did they ask, was the smoking crack part of that? That's what this person said and the encounter happened. Did they ask about that? Did they ask if this person really liked Obama when they had a sexual act together? I don't know. I had never heard of it on the news. Do we even know the person's name? Is there somebody besides his wife admitting to hooking up with him? Well, there's a name out there. Maybe somebody should research it and find out what's going on. Then we had last week, we had, of course, we wouldn't want to let the show go away with this one, but we had the good old story, which was funny. My wife Veronica actually ended up said, "Oh, you want me to write down some things for your show?" Last week when I was sick, just in case I did do it. And this was one of her topics, and it was one of my original topics too. You had the Planned Parenthood talking about we need a Disney princess who's had an abortion. We need a Disney princess who's pro-choice. We need a Disney princess who's an undocumented immigrant. We need a Disney princess who's actually a union worker. We need a Disney princess who's trans. That's what we need. This is what Planned Parenthood tweets out. And I know it's one of their offices, one in Pennsylvania. But this is what you have. And I would be interested to see. I wonder how many likes and retweets this thing got. Maybe that's something I should have researched before I came out. Because that would be funny to just see how many. You have to be a buffoon to retweet that and to like it. If you're retweeting it to show what a joke it is, yeah, okay. But, here's an organization in Pennsylvania that received $3.5 million of taxpayer money in 2016, right? And they receive in tax money about $500 million a year. And you can tell me they wash cars or they do this test and that test. Yeah, it's, firstly, they make enough money from abortions to pay for everything else, because that's highly profitable. So all that money we're giving them is just like unions. You give them some subsidized money, and they just pump it back into the politicians. So it's a quid pro quo in anybody's book. But remember, when you need a princess, she can be pro-choice, pro-abortion, undocumented, a union worker who's trans, and get them all for one. I don't know what that princess's name. We should have a contest. You can leave it on my Facebook and tell me what you think that super princess Disney, who's all that and a bag of nuts, what her name would be. Thanks for joining the Reality Check this week. We'll be back next week because we can.